Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Lunchroom. You may notice that I have a familiar face with me today as our fantastic guest host, the wonderful Sophie Ancival, has joined us yet again, and we are so happy to have her. Sophie, how are you doing today?
I am doing amazing. It is sunny, so this is all we can ask for.
It's extremely gloomy where I'm at, and we are not that far from one another. So maybe I'll get in my car after, and I'll just drive, and I'll work from my laptop outside of your apartment for the rest of the day, because that's not creepy at all, right? Yeah,
yes,
great.
That is not.
Great.
That is not.
So happy to have you. I'm Sarah Scofield Manser. I am ART's Assistant Director of Special Events and Partnerships. I use the she series of pronouns. I'm a white woman with dark brown hair that's pulled back in a admittedly messy bun today, wearing a little button-up denim shirt, Diction, I have it. And I've got headphones in, and I'm sitting in my strategic swivel chair that I've got going on all the time. I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge that Loeb Drama Center and the Oberon occupy unceded territory of the Indigenous Massachusetts people, and that I myself am calling in from Pentucket, Pennacook, Wabanaki land. I will place a resource in the chat for anyone who'd like to research more about the Indigenous land that they are calling in from today. I will pop that in right now. All right. And just a few moments of Zoom housekeeping and other things before I hand it over to Sophie. The first is that we'll have about 45 minutes of discussion with our panelists, but as always, we will save the last 15 minutes of the hour for Q&A. So if you have a question at any point in the program, please feel free to submit using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Oh, my goodness. I need some water. Note that that's different from the chat, which is in fact disabled. So if you'd like to submit a question for Sophie or our three panelists, the Q&A feature is where it's at. The second piece of Zoom housekeeping is that if you'd like to follow along with some automatic subtitles, you can turn those on by clicking an icon at the bottom of your screen. It's got three little dots, says more. It should give you an option to show subtitle or show live transcript. Click that and you'll have some Zoom automated captions that are not perfect, but are very helpful if you'd like to follow along with the written word. And finally, and certainly not last, I'd just like to read our audience compact statement at the beginning of all of our virtual events. And that is that the ART is unequivocally opposed to hate and centers anti-racism as a core value. We expect everyone in the ART community, including our audiences, to uphold these values. And as such, we will not tolerate anti-Blackness or racism of any kind in our buildings, nor in our online events. We aim to create an environment that is uninhabitable to racism and discrimination, where all BIPOC staff, artists, volunteers, audience, and community are seen, heard, valued, and provided the opportunity to thrive. This work is only possible when we do it together, and thank you for being our partner in it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you so much.
Of course, so happy to have you here. I'll hang out with you while you do your intro, and then I'll do what I do best and hop off camera, so you're not alone.
I am not alone.
Never.
Also, yes, I need to introduce myself. Hi, everyone. I am Sophie Ancival. I take the she, her series of pronouns. I am one of ART's line producer, specifically line producer on this project, Hype Man, and I am calling in from the unceded land of the Massachusetts people, otherwise called as Somerville at home, and I am wearing my Strong Black Woman uniform today, which is a bright yellow dress, a bold red lip, a very blue pair of earrings, and yeah, that make me feel just comfortable and just as I am. That's it. Thank you, Sarah, so much.
And I'll see you later.
I'll see you later.
Absolutely. Have a good hour, everyone. Bye.
Yes, bye. And I'm not alone today. I'm joined today by Shawn LaCount, John Oluwole, ADEkoje, and Idris Goodwin, who are hiding behind their turned off camera. And if they want to turn on their camera, who are the directing and team and playwright for Hype Man. Hi. Do you want to turn on your camera? Hi. Amazing to be surrounded by such amazing people today for the next hour. So just as I did, I think we'll do a quick round of introduction, name, pronouns, how you describe for today and maybe how you feel or where we're starting this call from. Yeah. Who should start? I'll start in order of alphabetical order. Let's do that. John, do you want to start?
Of course, that A. That A always gets things going.
I have that one.
So I am John Oluwole ADEkoje. I'm a Nigerian American. I love hip hop. So this was really a beautiful connection. What am I wearing? It's not fresh to death. It's like I'm at school, so I'm trying to be cool with the students, but I'm trying to be cool with y'all. So I'm in the combo phase right now. So that's where I am. So feeling great.
Awesome. Shawn, Shawn, go ahead. I started there.
Switched it up. All right.
Yeah.
Shawn LaCount. I use he, him, his. I am the artistic director at Company One Theater. Directed the play of Hype Man and co-directed the film with John. I am, I'm wearing a dark blue shirt. I am a 44-year young white bald man with piercing blue eyes to complement that shirt. And I'm sitting in the Company One offices, and I'm thrilled to be here. So,
awesome. Idris.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Idris Goodwin, he, him, his. I am beaming in from Colorado Springs, Colorado. I am the lucky playwright of Hype Man, a breakbeat play, now screenwriter, technically. I mean, let's go. I am wearing a simple but comfortable black cotton t-shirt. I am a brown-skinned, I'd say like somewhere, like creamed coffee, perhaps. Complected, also bald man, bald mob in the building today.
It looks like a mob, though, yeah.
That is so true. I've put the hair out, though.
I know, which, I feel like, it's a little insensitive, but that's fine.
That's right.
Joking. And of course I'm wearing a big smile per usual because I'm in great company. So
awesome. Thank you everyone for being here today. And in this week, that's like rather a big event for this team right here, because we were saying that just before we joined everybody who's behind their screen, but we made a movie, y'all, and that's not small. That's not small. Yeah, congrats. And why don't we start there, actually? Maybe getting a little bit of history on this team, because there's been a long history between Company One and Idris. There's been a long history between Company One and John, and kind of a little bit of like how we found ourselves in the presence of this team and the connections. Maybe Shawn, you can lead us through that.
Because... Oh, thanks,
Shawn. That's a lot. Okay, so the brief history. I'll be as quick as I can be. So I will say that John, who is a filmmaker, and he can talk about that, has been a part of the Company One team for a long time, as a playwright, as an actor, as a board member. I think also sometimes as a director, and multiple hats, but has really been core to Company One's development over the last 20 years in 1,000 different ways. And this was a natural ask of John, because boy, we couldn't have done it without him in any way. And it was a true pleasure to work with John in this capacity. Like, it was really amazing watching John kind of navigate the space and the all the intricacies, and frankly, teaching me what it means to make a movie, even if it means, this is really a hybrid, is what we've called it. But I learned a lot from John on this, and I'm deeply, deeply grateful. Idris, what did we do? We did Idris's play, How We Got On, I think in 2013 at Company One. It's a beautiful play. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's it's a great play, and it's part of Idris's breakbeat play cycle, which he can talk about. And then in 2018, Idris's play Hype Man. It won something at the American Blues Theater, right, Idris?
Yeah, the American Blues Theater out of Chicago does a new play award every year, and they give us a little bit of dough and some development time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so Hype Man was lucky enough to be selected that year.
Awesome.
Idris and I were talking about kind of what play of his we were going to do at the time, and we were talking about a few different ones, and Hype Man really resonated for 1,000 reasons. But to be honest, many of Idris's players resonate with us for 1,000 reasons. I think we have similar missions, I'll say. And we went on the journey of starting to doing a little development with it, bringing in local Boston artists from across disciplines. And we premiered it at the Boston Center for the Arts in the Plaza Theater in 2018, I believe. And then it got picked up by Mixed Blood Theater and went to Minneapolis. Then we went back to the Oberon at the ART and did a short run of it. And here we are in 2021 with this hybrid play movie situation that is a beautiful thing to be doing. Idris is connected with us again through the National New Play Network. There's a commission there on a new play that Idris is working on there. And so we have a history and hopefully a long future, because I think Idris is one of the most important playwrights and advocates for our field in the country. So here we go. How was that?
That's amazing. And I agree completely, 100%. That's a great segue on Idris talking a little bit about the play, because I saw it in 2019 when it was at the Oberon, and watching the movie again this year in 2021 just reminded me how relevant it is, and like some of the words hit me as if they were written like this month for the situation we're in right now. So do you want to talk a little bit about the play and like the where you wrote it from and how it fits in your breakbeat plays, but also how it fits in where we find ourselves right now in a situation of like racial reckoning in this country?
Yeah. So, wow. The breakbeat play cycle I started 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. The first play was called How We Got On, and I wanted to write a bunch of plays for me to see. Basically, I was like, what are some plays that I wish that I would see more of? And as someone of Generation X, who will never let go of the fact that the early 90s was the best time for hip hop music ever in life, who had a front row seat to the growth and evolution of this thing called hip hop, who also understands the lineage that hip hop comes out of and how it's connected to, R&B and blues and gospel and funk and Black history writ large. I wanted to also write plays that explored the way that America changed because of hip hop and what hip hop contribute to all of our conversations about everything. And also just, sort of be a bit autobiographical as well. So How We Got On is a coming of age story set in 88. The second play, The Realness, set in 96, is like a love story. And then I wasn't sure about what the next one was going to be because, a lot of them are set in specific time periods. The Trayvon Martin incident had occurred, and then shortly thereafter, there were a few more. There was Mike Brown, there was Eric Garner, and there was a BET cipher with the rapper David Banner had this line. He says, "Where were all the white rappers standing up when Mike Brown got gunned down. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And I said, that's actually a really good question, Dave Banner. And so it got me thinking about the sort of invisible contract or the sort of expectation of hip hop culture, right? So we've seen people like the Beastie Boys, we've seen Third Base, we've seen Eminem, white folks around participating in and certainly around hip hop is not new. But I've always been curious about what were the where were the lines? Were there ever any drawn lines around allegiances, right? So hip hop so much about representation, where you come from, representing for you and yours, but was there ever a line? Like, it's a very Black art form, but it's largely controlled by non-Black people. And so all of these kinds of issues. And so in the face of this, so the Mike Brown line, or the Dave Banner line was the first thing. Yeah. The second thing was Obama had this speech where he said, if I had a son, he would have looked like Trayvon. And he started crying. And of course, Tucker Carlson and various white folks were like, that's irresponsible, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, you'll never understand what he means by that. You'll never understand what he means by that. So, and then the final sort of ingredient was during the start of the 2015 election, or the 2016 election, during the Democratic primaries. And this is the first time this phraseology ever got kind of used, is your boy Mike, I think his name is Mike O'Malley, something like that. Can't remember. He was a candidate. He obviously didn't go anywhere. He kind of got crushed after this. He sat on the stage and said, "All lives matter." That was like the first time that phrase had been uttered. So I immediately started thinking about all the different interracial spaces I've been in the arts, and how there's always this unspoken sort of belief that we're all progressive and that we're all doing the Lord's work just because of the virtue of being in the arts. Somehow that makes us very progressive, right? And it had me thinking about, well, if I actually asked everyone right now about, how far they would throw down for Black Lives Mattering, I would probably get very different answers. And I don't know that, I think that this conversation in our space together would change. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to break a little bit of my rule about staying in the Breakbeat Play series chronologically and in specific time periods and staying away from the present. But then I realized, well, 2015/2016 is a period. It is like, the further we get away from it, the more that moment's going to mean something. So that's when it's kind of set. And it's really a document of the emotions of that time. And really just exploring, like, what are the ramifications of these issues, these Trayvon Martins, these Sandra Blands, on actual families, on communities? How does that affect how we talk to each other and view each other, even if we've known each other for years? I never knew you were an All Lives Matter person until this came up. I don't know if I can really mess with you now, it's like, to me, great plays are about people making choices and questioning what they thought they believed. And so that's kind of where Hype Man came from. I also thought there was something really interesting about this idea of the Hype Man, who is this underline, this shadow, or exclamation point, which, and again, that dynamic comes out of the Black church. That's all the pastor saying something and having the deacons or the trustees be like, tell it, amen. It's all part of that. And so, I thought there was something really exciting there, especially when we're talking about advocacy, when we're talking about speaking up for someone else. So yeah, and just to wrap this up, it really hurts my heart a lot that this play still has that the further away I get from when I wrote it, it actually is unfortunately more apt than it was. I would have loved for it to have been seen as, okay, well, that's about that time. like that's about that time. And we engage with it so we don't go back there. It's like, we produce the Diary of Anne Frank so we don't ever go back there. Right. That part's really kind of sad. It really is hard for me a little bit. Honestly, that it continues to be prevalent. But I will say this, I do feel like the discourse is different. I feel like when I wrote it, it was a little less, I think the language we have now about talking about it as a play, I think there's less resistance, less sort of, oh, reallying, or really, I mean, is it really, like, I think there's a lot less of that too. So it's not all bad. Certainly this movie experiment, achievement, actually it's not an experiment, it's a massive achievement creatively, is also extremely moving too, just to think about it. It's like, now it's for real part of history, you know what I mean? And so accessible, right? Like, it's just so many more people can experience it now, which to me, given the context, given the time, given the fact that, the murder of George Floyd is being, in a court right now, that is, that's very significant to me. That means a lot to me, actually.
Yeah. And I mean, so many elements that you talked about resonate, because it's chronicling, like, not just a moment. Like, we would have hoped it was just a moment and it happened to be a play of that moment, but it turns out that it's really a story of like a generation, and even if not even more, and we see it as that. And I loved how you talked about the discourse being different, and you also mentioned the questions that are raised throughout the play, and the questions that the characters are going through as well. And as a play, you experience the play and you leave with the question. And I'm curious, as a movie, what you will hope the audience live with, because it's a movie, you can rewatch it. And I know we've had discussion. I've heard John mention very clearly the one of the goal being like the big questions of the movie, the big questions of the play. So what is one of the goals that you kind of like want people to take out of having this as a movie moment, or a hybrid of a movie moment, or a play? Is it the same as the play, or do you want to go further than that? John, do you have a little bit that you want to share on that?
Yeah, I mean, Idris talked a little bit about this. Is that really moment? Like, really, is this what's happening? Are you sure that this exists? Eradicating that and making sure that people really listen and really react to what's happening, and really realize that we are in a moment in America where we cannot hide anymore. We can't, like, I can tell many stories about what has happened to me personally in Minnesota, not in the same spot where cops have done some very brutal things. So I am very aware I'm carrying that with me, and people are questioning it for a long time. Yeah, you must have done something. I mean, there's got to be something that you're doing that's not right. And so we are at this moment where people are beginning to rethink that. And I think we're still in the process of doing that, but we are rethinking it. And so when you watch this movie, just watch it for real. Don't try to dismiss anything. Just watch it for real. The artist has really poured a lot into it. And then you will find yourself really questioning our society, and hopefully you ask yourself, what can I help? Because everybody has to do something. It's not just one group of people that have to educate another group of people. Everybody has to do their own personal work, their own weightlifting. Everybody's got to get in shape for this, so that we can get to the next level. That's what I hope.
Yeah, totally. And you said that everybody poured a little bit of themselves in the process, and again, for having seen the play and being in the room during the process of filming it. Can you talk a little bit more about how that process was a little bit different? Of like, you have more experience than any of us in this room filming a movie or being in a studio doing that experience, and I will disclaim that we had a lot of safety protocols and we had a lot of things to go through to even be able to be together in the same place with a limited number of people in conditions that felt safe for everyone who was participating in a year that's heavy for everyone, emotionally, physically, personally. And that's also important to be able to, as artists, to have work and do work. Talking about as a producer, it's also part of the important work that we're doing, is to be able to work, to have artists work and work with artists. Can you talk a little bit about the process, Shawn, John, about how different that was in your creative process, and how you were able to kind of get together through the process with actors, with yourselves?
Yeah, I can start, and then I'm sure Shawn has a lot of deep things to say as well. So Shawn is the one that brought this to me, and I remember watching this show. So this is my personal opinion about the show. I thought it was fantastic. It stayed with me. Like I said, it's kind of funny, Idris, to talk about the early 90s in hip hop. And I can join that argument. So all that was sitting with me. And when this was brought to me, I was like, I don't want that energy that I got in that room. I want to grab that same energy. How do I grab that same energy was really the challenge. There's so many ways you can go cinematically with it. We can get out of the room, we can move, we can do all kinds of stuff. But if I'm going to have 3 walls, which is what we have 3 walls, how can I make it feel like people are actually watching it just like they're watching it in theater, and bring it closer? And so that became part of the process, the challenge of trying to shoot it in a way where people are totally engaged. But I was talking to somebody about just the process itself. It's like normally in theater, we have people in the audience and they're sitting there, and then we have people on stage acting. So the goal was to just bring those people on stage and just put them in the middle of the stage and then move them around and get them to experience this roller coaster of a ride. So that really was one of the primary aspects of it, which took a long time to really nail down, because it's just a different format. It's a different, even though you're trying to get the same feeling, the way you get there is different. And so that was part of the whole process of doing that. And so with all the protocols that you were talking about made it more comfortable to do that, because we all felt safe, and then we could experiment and try to get shots and get different forms of storytelling to work with what we were doing. So the process was long. It was experimental many times. And sometimes we just had to get it done. So.
Yeah, and I was hoping you would say that's a wrap at the end, and I can tell to anyone that doesn't work in movies. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. You don't say that apparently at the end of a movie.
And there's another reason why I didn't say that, because I knew it was not a wrap.
Shawn, anything that you want to add?
No, that's the scoop. I think John's right. I mean, I think, I think I'd be remiss not to say that this also wouldn't have happened without the ART. Idris and I have been talking about what it would mean to put this on tape in some capacity for a while, and talking about different partners. And the ART really was the only ones who stepped up in a big way. And there was the element of helping simply to produce it, right? But really, I mean, John's talking about a lot of it when we got in the room. We were able to do the work, but the amount of anxiety and planning and concern about just getting to that room, right? That's the time we live in, and that's new, and that's real, and that's we, speaking with the producers at the ART up until 3 days before, every week, you think it's going to happen? I think it's going to happen. You think it's going to happen? I think it's going to happen, right? Protocols change, rules change, safety changes. And I think we all entered with this understanding, like, we're going to do what we can do with prioritizing health. And that's mental health. That's, in terms of just making sure people are mentally, emotionally sound in this space, which is not a given, as well as the physical health. And the ART did that. Somebody actually asked me, hey, I heard you put a movie, a Hype Man. And we're thinking about doing a movie. Just, you have any tips? What was it like? How'd you do? And I went over to send an email about all the things we had to do. And they were like, yeah, we're not going to do it. Forget it. I mean, it was intense, but it was the only way that we were going to feel comfortable putting our artists in that space, being in that space ourselves. And frankly, just modeling that, right, for the field. Like the amount of COVID protocol was exceptional. And right down to the COVID officer who every single time John walked past the 25-foot line without the double mask and the face mask, get back, like everything stopped for that, and the room respected it and understood that was the number one. And I'm really grateful for that because we made it through with safety and integrity with that as well. So just adding that to the conversation.
Yeah, totally. And having everybody on board is such a so important to the process. And also, I don't think we can spend this hour without shouting out the people that are not in this room and that have allowed to make the whole hybrid of a movie, we're going to call it, happen, because they're people from the theater world and they're people also from the movie world, and everybody has learned a tremendous deal in the process. I want to shout out the creative team, Lawrence Mutton III, and as a scenic designer, and Cassandra Queen, costume designer, Lishuna at sound, and then Sean Pierrot for lighting, but also the Oberon team that was there and the entire ART team that worked behind that to make it happen, and learn about the process and listen from the people who know about what that process is, and find creative solutions also to discover what that process is, because not everything was written. And as you said, Sean, we've collaborated. I think we counted, it's the 4th time by now. And every time, I feel like every time we go on a new and different challenge, every time there's something.
That's what we do, Sophie. That's what we bring the adventure.
Exactly. Miss You Like Hell. We had the stage in the middle of Oberon, for those who remember. Week Out as well was amazing. And We're Gonna Die was the first one as well. So long collaboration, and I remember the discussion with Mark for the audience that is here and that watches the lunchroom. Usually Mark is the host, and the discussion that we've had with Mark about doing Hype Man as a hybrid of a movie, and questioning, are we going to be able to do it? Is that something that works? Does it make sense? Can we do it the day before? Who do we need to ask permission to do it to? It's just a simple fact of not knowing who do you go to ask the permission to do a movie, and all the things like that. So I'm excited that this worked. I wanted to learn a little bit about the hip hop, because we've talked about part of the social justice aspect of the play, of the movie, but it is part of the breakbeat play, and there's a giant element of music and musicality in the play, whether it be in the play or also in the movie. And I know we've spent a lot of time to get that right and get that 4th character right. Do you want to talk a little bit about the music, about the sound, and maybe once we talk about that, I can show a little moment of the play, of the movie. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, sure. I'll just say quickly that shout out Kadaj Bennett, who plays Verb, but also composed all the bops in the show and was there with me in the development phase as I was writing, still working on the play, and his contributions were really significant to cracking those songs and crafting those songs because they got to sound like good songs too. And they do.
They do.
Voice shining.
Come on.
Voice shining goes. So can't send enough salutes to the homie. For me, the breakbeat plays are about hip hop and content and form. So one of the things I love about theater is that it can hold everything. So it's live storytelling, but there's room for that to be done. It's fashion design and costume design and scenic design and lighting design and colors and acting and singing and dance, and it's just like all these art forms can exist simultaneously, all to serve this story. And so for me, as a practitioner of hip hop myself, I've had some transformative nights in the clubs. I've had some transformative. Every time I've seen the Roots, I leave changed. And there are things that some of my favorite rappers do. There are things that Black Thought and Kendrick Lamar and Lauryn Hill do just with language that is transformative. And so for me, I just wanted to show all the beauty of that in the context of the play, of the American stage drama. I just think there's ways to work it in where, even if you don't like rap music, you don't like hip hop, which is unfortunate. A story is a story is a story is a story. And if you have any empathy, it should still work. Hype Man should still work, even if you don't like rap music. But the rap is not in there frivolously either. It's not just like something cute. It's about voice. It's about, your power as a lyricist, your power as a pop crossover icon. It's about speaking up, which is something we can all do. And so while, and then for Peep, the beat is the foundation. Like hip hop starts with the DJ. The DJ gave the first MC the microphone because he got tired of having to be like, hey, if you got a car, move your car. And if you, he's just like, I just want to focus on the records. You talk to the people, right? That's why MCs are called MCs. And so for Peep, it's like, I'm the quote unquote silent partner, but I'm not silent. Like I make the bed for all of this stuff. I create the platform for all of this stuff. And so there's the questions for her are different. The ethical questions for her are different. So again, they're so tied together, and that's how I design all these plays is they have to be inextricably linked. Like one can't exist without the other. And finally, I'll just say there's an element of spectacle to all these too. Like I want people to watch rapping happen but like not cute, not like, and now this is like a musical number and we're just going to rap it. And it's all about dogs or whatever, it's gotta be, and speaking of dogs, prayers for DMX. Also, but that it's like people also need to see, I want people to see the form, I want them to see it. I want them to see what it looks like. I want them to see what it feels like, yo, they really rapping. Like, you know what I mean? These actors are rapping, So anyway, I digress.
They are rapping, and they're rapping good, and the music is really good.
Just to add, cinematically, like using hip hop as a postmodern tool, being able to sample, being able to combine things that you think don't combine together. So even the way this was color graded, there's like 5 different looks to it. So each one is sampling different movies. I'm not going to say which ones. Sometimes you don't tell people your samples. But you're sampling the look, you're sampling the energy, you're sampling the way it's being cut together. So hip hop is even more than just the music, it's also an approach. So the approach to how this film was made was very hip hop. It's really grabbing different things that we know work in different places, sampling them together, bringing them into this new form. That's why we're using this word hybrid. It's like we're kind of creating something different from it. It feels cinematic, but it still feels theater. So it has those things there. And that's the beauty of it. Hip hop gives you an avenue to just say, I can do this, I can play with this, and I know I can come up with something in the end.
Yeah. And there's I won't spoil the surprises, but I do want to shout out Barrington Edwards for the animation that are present as well in this movie version that serve that purpose as well as you're talking about, John. So totally. Shawn, do you want to add something before I end?
I just want to add, first, I just want to make sure we shout out Loop Lab too, who is not necessarily music specific, but was really the whole camera edit crew and worked with us and with John beautifully. Yeah, I mean, I doubled down on Kadaj Bennett being not just a brilliant, generous artist, but really the heart and soul of the play in many ways. I think Kadaj created the beats for us, obviously plays Bird, but Kadaj helped Michael learn how to rap, the beats that appear to be coming from Peep, right, are the beats that Kadaj made. And he was able to kind of explain to Rachel the layering and how that happens, first, whether it's first, you hear the metronome, then you hear the piano, then, whatever it might be. But we also kind of invested in the music early on as, like you said, a fourth character, right? So when we were developing the play, it was already not a traditional space. Idris, we talked about who do we need in the room? What do we need? And shout out local rapper Justin Clancy, who came in the room and did his thing and helped us, definitely opened our eyes in a few areas. And then in the rehearsal process, shout out Abstract Minor, who is a local female DJ creating beats, selling beats. And she's doing the thing. And we gave the room to her and Rachel and frankly, all the men left the room and just gave them space to talk about not just what it means to be a beat maker and technically how to do it, but what it means to be a female beat maker of color in the industry, what it means to have voice, to fight for that voice. So this was always part of the process from the very beginning. And I'm glad it was, because I think it becomes, it's everything. It's everything. You get that wrong. You get that wrong.
You got it wrong. And yes, and as the woman in the room right here, appreciative of the role of Peep in the play and the question of what it is to be a woman in a world that's dominated by men. It's not exactly a men's world, but it's a world dominated by men, and all the questions, and especially a woman of color in those spaces, and what that means. I'll play the trailer for us right now. It's full of energy, and I'm sure for those who haven't seen it, they'll be happy to see it again. And for those who haven't seen it, just grace and let's go and share it. This is it.
They don't know us, because if they did, they wouldn't kill us. Between a rock and a Glock, no penthouse came apart than a cock inside a hen house, being slapped and shoved, even kicked down. Now I'm reaching in my pockets like pulling land down. All the other drivers and me, we stopped, and people started getting out and trying to look, one after the other. Boom, 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 this never-ending stream of police. Boom, 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 and it was. But yo, I'm here. I'm good.
So sick of this. How many this year alone?
So many.
So we gotta do something. Whole world will be watching.
Right?
Nobody will see it coming. Like stop shooting us 18 times.
Wait, hold up. Let's talk about this.
That's what I'm trying to do.
And whatever.
You can't tell me what I can and cannot say.
You my hype man. We like one voice, You were reckless. Now you Malcolm X.
He talks all this shit about speaking from the heart and not censoring, but now he's shook.
Yes. It's like the moment where I clap. Congratulations. Looking at the time, it's 12:45, and usually that's the moment where we start opening up the questions right there. And there's some in the Q&A that I want to start addressing. And then I have one question for you, because in preparing, I realized you're also all educators. So I want to make sure that we keep time to address that for the youngins that might be looking for inspiration. But the question is, you've talked a little bit about the different experience of making a movie versus mounting a live stage production. Has that process had any impact on the way you envision creating future post-pandemic work, whenever that moment is going to arrive? Who wants to take that one on?
Well, I can speak on behalf of a theater company, a small theater company in Boston. So Company One Theater has been thinking a lot about that and what it means. I think a lot of theaters have. We've done a lot of work digitally, not just making theater, but making conversation and connecting folks digitally, and trying to keep the people healthy through dark times as best we can. And I anticipate that continuing, right? So I anticipate having a digital component. I may have to ask if ADEkoje Films wants to become another wing of Company One Theater at some point, because it's too good not to. But I think a big question too is, when do we all come back into live space, and what does that feel like? What does that look like? And I think we'd be foolish to ignore the moment and to not learn from the moment. And so we're doing a lot of active learning right now, a lot of active listening, and it will certainly impact and change what we're doing. I know for Company One, we don't anticipate having live audience until at least the winter. And we'll see from there what's happening.
Yeah, definitely think that's questions that the RT is asking as well. John, Idris?
Yeah, for me, I've always felt like in grad school, you always have film school on one side and you have theater on the other side. And everybody's feeling themselves on each side. Like, we are better or we are not. And I always felt that there was always secrets that each department had. And that if only we could talk to get each other, we could expand each other's work. We could make theater work better, or we could make film work better. And I think this was one of the beginnings of that, because having those conversations in the room with filmmakers who have their own practice and theater makers who have their practice. And we are comparing notes and seeing what is effective. What is effective? How do we tell stories using what we have in the room, knowing what the goals are? I think that conversations continue. It should even expand as much as possible, because I think we're in a place where we can really change what we're doing.
Screenwriter Idris.
I've always been. I gotta say, I was really kind of built for this moment in a lot of ways. I've always been a very transmedia person. I've always dabbled, and it's what I've built my kind of career on. I was the hip hop guy who was also writing plays, and the playwriting guy who was also in hip hop groups, and went to film school and started dabbling when I remember we were the first class when I was in film school to be introduced to digital editing software. And everyone was like, that doesn't make any sense. Get back on that Steamback, start cutting that celluloid. So, I've always been a tinkerer. I've always been interested in all the ways you can tell a story. And in this moment, I've been writing a lot for Zoom, and a lot of my plays have been adapted to streaming content. This is, of course, one of the top, obviously. None can touch this, of course.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm just here for all of it. I'm here for all of it, just because I'm in this for collaboration. I'm in this because that's the thing that's trippy, is that filmmaking and theater are extremely collaborative art forms. That's what they actually are. yes, it's telling story in pictures and it's da-da-da-da, but like, what is it really? It's collaboration to tell a story on multiple levels, like in real time. And so it's like there's way more options and possibilities than I think most people think. So I think this moment has shaken the snow globe in the way that we need. And I think we would be fools if we all went back. And I also don't think it's going to be so cut and dry, like going back, like much like 9/11 changed kind of travel and security and all this kind of stuff. There's going to be some remnants, from this thing, and it's not going to be a cut and dry ending like that anyway. So, we got to keep adapting.
Yeah, totally. If only to be able to survive as artists and keep offering stories and our experiences.
Yeah, keep making impact. I mean, the business model is going to have to change, but that's, it is what it is. If it wasn't this, it was going to be something else. I mean, the bottom was going to fall out. Somebody. I mean, remember Bernie Madoff, and suddenly everybody's projects got canceled. You know what I mean? Like, hey guys, maybe let's not. Which means that everyone was just revealed the funding, that we were clearly all, going to the same well, right? So it's like, maybe next time. Maybe next time we should, across the country, we all were getting, I got like, suddenly it was like, we're going to do this and we're going to put this money in your project. And then the Madoff thing happened and it was like, yeah, so what's the least amount that you...
Yes, totally.
Too, yeah. So
yeah, totally. Right now, the question is, what is the version that we can do, not being together, or being together but not really yet being together? But we're finding these answers. I mentioned briefly that you were all educators, and Shawn, you mentioned that Rachel and Michael and Kadaj all had been alumni of the Boston Arts Academy, and you both are educators of the Boston Arts Academy. Shawn, you were there. John, you're like still physically there.
Right now.
But what, and it's part of one question as well, what advice do you have for like young writers, young artists, young activists who might be watching the program today and who are turning themselves towards the future and our next generations, and who are our next artists, writers, producers? Don't forget, you can be a producer too, but like, what is the advice to them?
Well, the advice in my class is be yourself. Try to find your own voice. Experiment. Don't worry. Don't worry so much about what somebody else is doing. Obviously, you learn from that, but really try to find your voice and try to find how you want to tell the story. And like Idris was saying, this is just like collaborative work. Like, find your people, because once you find your people and you stick together, nobody can stop you. Like, that's the thing. And so I've seen many of my students find their own group, and they can't be stopped because they're ready to tell new stories. They're telling in a fresh way, and they're continuously finding new ways to tell those stories. And I think that's what is exciting. Things don't have to be exactly how they are right now. In fact, it's boring if we do exactly the same thing. We should be doing something fresh and different, and not the fresh and different that people are saying all the time for the last 20 years. Not that fresh, but like like the real deal.
You fresh.
Like the real deal. And that's the other thing theater companies need to recognize, is that things will always change. And so your definition of what you think is a fresh voice or original voice, you got to go back and redefine that. Find that, because these students are coming and you should recognize them not late, but when they're actually moving up.
Yeah.
I agree with John. I'm taking John's class.
I'm taking it too.
School of John.
And Shawn, you know a lot about collaboration. I mean, like, again, we've collaborated a lot. Company One collaborates with many, many artists, whether they be local or nationally recognized as well. And I think collaboration is in the DNA of your organization as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's the business model, right? It's refine the mission, make sure that it's clean, it's clear, and it's productive. Make sure it's inclusive. Make sure you revisit it and question it all the time, and then do it with everyone else, and make sure that you're not trying to be the singular, but you're part of something bigger. And so that served us pretty well. For a small company, I think that served us pretty well. I think we've in times where we've watched other organizations really have a hard time and have to sometimes relook at what they're doing and how they're doing it, and how they're talking about it. I think we've been lucky that we've been able to double down on what we already were doing, and maybe, certainly learn how to do it better, and continue to listen. But that's been what we've been at least trying to do for 20 years.
Yeah, and shout out to your team. Working with them is really always amazing to see and learn how to do things differently and to work together when you're not working for the same organization and have shared values, and it's a great way, I think, to expend one's value to be able to collaborate with other people and other artists and find new methods. In the 2 minutes that we have left, I want to know, there was a brief question that I want to go back to that asked, what's your favorite springtime hip hop jam? And in the couple minutes we have left, I want to talk music. What's the jam that people who want to get a little bit ready for a hype man, maybe they don't know a little bit about hip hop and they're like, oh, I want to know a little bit more. What do they go to get ready?
I'll say that obviously in preparation for this play, I was listening to a lot of newer stuff because I was learning. I was trying to figure out Pinnacle needs to sound like a rapper on the radio now, not a rapper in 1988 or 96 when I wrote the other plays. And so I was listening. I started listening. I actually really like this dude, Mac Miller. I really like Mac's music, some of his later stuff, especially. I also was listening to a lot of Kendrick Lamar, and I think there's a lot of To Pimp a Butterfly. There's a lot of To Pimp a Butterfly, I think, in Hype Man, you know what I mean? Especially the song We Gonna Be All Right. But yeah, I think Kendrick Lamar beautifully carries the torch, the lineage of Black music and Black conversation and history, but also makes it fresh and it's creates anthems, that really capture the spirit of the times. And that song, I think, if Hype Man is the sort of play of that time, of the time and of the Black Lives Matter moment, I definitely think that song, We Gonna Be All Right, and To Pimp a Butterfly, the album, are the soundtrack.
That's awesome. And I also want to share with our audience that Idris is featured in the movie. We're starting a trend here. Featured as part as the closing credits. So you'll be able to hear him as well represent a little bit towards the end. And so glad we could do that. Any additional words, anything that you're burning to talk about that we wouldn't have addressed other than Hype Man? I'll just plug that. Hype Man is online and available at specific dates from April 8th. So we're opening this Thursday. Be there. There's a little opening gathering on Zoom beforehand until May 6th. And all tickets are available either on the Company One website or the ART website. So just go there, find your ticket, watch it as a group, watch it individually, and continue asking the questions. Any final words?
My only addition is, you're talking about all these songs, and I'll agree with Kendrick. But I also agree with the boy shining because my daughter is 2 years old and she knows the lines, no, no, no. She's singing that all the time. So it works. A 2-year-old is bumping to it, asking me to play it over and over again. So just so you know, that's happening.
Hey,
Awesome.
hey.
My 8 and 10-year-old too. But you know, Idris knows how to get the young people, always has. And yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just want to harken back, Sophie, real quick to the start of the conversation and thinking about this trial that's happening in Minnesota at the moment, and Idris's comments that there's a sadness to how relevant the play remains. And just a reminder, we all know this on this call, I know, but saying it out loud, that there is no neutral. And that it is our job, specifically white folks, it's our job to dismantle these white supremacist notions, systems, and problems. That is our job. Otherwise, the other side of it is inevitably anti-Black. We cannot be that. We cannot go there. And appreciative for all y'all doing the hard work in the hard times.
Thank you so much for those final words. To everyone, have a good day. Thank you for tuning in with us. And I mean, let's all do the work. We're all part of it. It's all our responsibility. So have a good day and see you there. Bye.